What happens when you put a cheap plastic airsoft gun up against a real deal firearm? Well, I suppose we already know since we've been here before, but it still hasn't gotten old. This time around though, we have a different tool to help us see the destruction better than ever before. A serious piece of kit, the Phantom V711 high-speed camera on loan from Bryce of RentHighSpeed.com and Ballistic High Speed fame. We'll start off our replica removal rampage with one of these beauties, an Omega labeled Infinity branded 1911 style full plastic spring pistol that I chose for this due to the low price and extremely cheap construction that should provide a good show for the cameras. Also, I bought a few of them, in case we miss. So there's our target. What's our implement of destruction? We're going to ramp up the firepower as the video continues, so let's start at the low end with one that's not actually a firearm, but a high-pressure air-powered 50 caliber rifle similar in muzzle energy to a .22 LR. The large, heavy, slow-moving lead ball certainly did a number on that plastic pistol, and on the Chronos camera's 4500 frame per second footage, we can see it was a direct hit to the barrel that blew it all apart. Here, though, is the main event, filmed on the Phantom at 50,000 frames per second. The way the plastic ripples with the impact before tearing and shattering is truly mesmerizing despite the challenging lighting. Yeah, that's a flashlight illuminating our target, but what will we see when a little more firepower is introduced? Up next on the chopping block is another 1911 airsoft pistol, one that is significantly sturdier and, notably, clear. These models are still a bit cheesy, but they don't feel too terrible, and it is very cool to be able to see all the inner workings through the outer shell. Hopefully, soon we'll be seeing a 45 ACP bullet bouncing around in there too. It only made sense to pit like against like, so here is a Sig Sauer 1911 ready to face off against that Sig Sauer 1911. The slide absolutely disappeared. The full story only starts to show when we slow things down to 4500 frames per second. That projectile smashed the barrel through the back of the slide, taking the entire spring and air piston mechanism on a ride with it. Unfortunately though, the trigger for the Phantom camera didn't go through and we missed the prime time close-up of the action. Good thing I have a shopping addiction and a second clear pistol was on hand ready for precisely this outcome. In real time, the result looks extremely similar, and the wider view at 480 frames per second captured the magazine comically ejecting to escape destruction, but peering in closer, we see that this bullet didn't hit the barrel so cleanly. This second take did go a bit differently as far as the impact went, but the big important variation was a successful trigger, giving us this footage captured by the Phantom camera. It's crazy to see the plastic barrel and slide deflect the bullet so much and so quickly, but it's this little bounce and ride it goes on along the side of the frame that is especially unexpected. Then, for perspective on the speed this is happening at, watch the piston spring compress all the way as the outer cylinder is flung backward during the impact, and then ever so slowly extend itself as it shoots out of frame. Being able to see everything that's happening thanks to the crystal clear shell is fantastic, and these particular ones seem to be made of pretty strong material, but that's kind of working against the extreme destruction I was hoping to capture with the Phantom, so we're going to break out another one of those awful Omega pistols so that we can watch a 45 ACP hammer it into bits. In real time, it's tough to say exactly what transpired differently than the clear pistols, but at 480 frames per second we get our first glimpse. Yeah, that thing positively shattered. it kablooied, evaporated, and turned into a sharp, chunky rain. The very few remaining recognizable pieces dance through the air, the frame jiggles like jello, and we breathe a sigh of relief when we see that all of the cameras recorded it perfectly. All the planning, collaboration, and labor involved in moving the Phantom 500 miles from its home out into a field powered by a pair of car batteries hooked to a jumbo inverter and a pickup truck was finally worth it. There's the front sight blasting off, the series of wrinkles and crackles that explode outward into black shards, and every aspect in the sequence of destruction that leads to a mist of cheap plastic occupying the space where a once recognizable replica previously stood. Yeah, that single clip made it all worthwhile. Oh, but we're not done yet. The daylight is fading fast, so we'll have to hurry and deal with some less than optimal footage, but this atrocious feeling Desert Eagle Spring pistol is not going to survive the night. We've already taken out 3 of these exact models, but I had to get another for this video so that we could see it like never before. The replica is up against a real Desert Eagle, .50. As soon as that heavy hammer falls, everything happens very quickly. The recoil hits before the bullet even leaves the barrel, making the point of impact a little high, but even that was enough to blow the slide in half and tear out all of the inner workings of the pistol. Once again though, the real show starts when we take a look at the footage we were all waiting for. The plume coming out around the gas piston is interesting to see, but the real show starts when the chunk of copper and lead comes flying out and banana peels the plastic outer and aluminum inner barrel of the BB gun. The chunk of what I think is aluminum rocketing through the top of the slide is particularly wild. Then what's left of the bullet continues out past the hammer, mangled but still moving pretty fast. The rest is a ballet of dyed plastics and springs exploding rearward and upward and pretty much everywhere. Parts are still bouncing out of the emptied frame long after most of the gun has been carried away. We could move on at this point. It's clear that the Desert Eagle is powerful, but I did buy an awful lot of those Omega 1911s, so I would love to see it matched up against one. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of damage. The airsoft gun is gone in a flash, as the recoil from the 50 Action Express picks up the little bench the Desert Eagle is attached to. Probably due to the fading light, we get a really good look at the famous ring of fire, right before everything encircled by it turns into a blurry soup. And without farther ado, here's that blast captured at 50,000 frames per second. Yeah, I didn't realize that microplastic could be a verb, but here we are. I do not get tired of watching that bullet fly, briefly, before it slams into and absolutely shatters that poor unsuspecting terrible airsoft pistol. Truly, a brilliant show of force and brittle, cheap plastic. With that, we're fresh out of daylight, but we'll break out the flashlight one last time to squeeze in a final act of wanton destruction. One of my all-time favorite clips that we filmed was this UK Arms Airsoft Revolver pitted against a 454 Casull Raging Bull. The way the barrel splits is just incredible, and I really wanted to see that happen again, filmed with a faster camera. I tracked down another UK Arms revolver, identical other than the color, and it sure is just as lightweight and plasticky as I remember. No idea if this will react like the last one did, but it is certainly worth trying and should be interesting either way. With even more power than the Desert Eagle, the Raging Bull really shows off its unpleasantness by lifting the bench a full 2 inches off of the ground and only remaining in the gun vise thanks to that string through the trigger guard. The ferocity of the 454 is impressive and certainly not lost in the 4,500 frames per second footage. The surviving half of the cylinder shows off by spinning brilliantly through the evening air, and as the remaining bits and bobs fall to the ground, along with the bench, we have just one clip left to review. It's not quite the barrel split I was looking for, but it is a performance worth repeating. First on scene is the shockwave and its shadow extending from the cylinder gap, and all hell breaks loose as the bullet passes the barrel porting and fire spits out ahead of it. The orange tip briefly glows before a direct injection of lead tears open the shining outer barrel bit by bit. The bullet perseveres until it reaches the cylinder, which it pushes through with reckless abandon. The projectile itself is either shredded or lost in the debris cloud, but the energy it brought with it is transferred into spreading as much of the target as possible across the field. The hammer drops, slowly and distantly, to finish off this adventure into high-end high speed. The V711 is back in Bryce's more than capable hands along with the rest of his high-speed fleet. It was a fight every step of the way against unfamiliar technology, insufficient batteries.
Oh no.
Oh, he's flatlined.
Is the camera still on?
And limited time frames, as well as the usual ephemeral lighting and hardware issues.
Oh, I don't think it's the gun, I think it's your ammo.
It definitely doesn't like that ammo.
Well, it's a Taurus.
But it wasn't an experience I'd easily give up. Thank you so much to everyone who helped, and sorry for bossing you around.
2, 1.
Okay, Raging Bull, please.
After all of this practice, we are getting pretty efficient at destroying replicas though, so expect the next episode of this series to have by far the most carnage yet.